Welcome to the show. 2017 is shaping up to be a year of big changes for Washington County. The efforts we champion as a county are put forth and led by 5 elected commissioners in the county. Here to talk with us about them in greater detail is County Commissioner Wayne Keefer. Wayne, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much, Danielle. It's good to be here.
We have a lot of questions for you, and I'm actually going to toss it to Tom first to get things started.
Yeah, just a simple question, really. You're coming up on 1 year as commissioner now. And number one, how do you like the job? Number two, what are the main interests and things you've been involved in this past year?
Absolutely. Well, first of all, it's been quite an honor. As you said, the first week of April will mark my 1-year anniversary as a commissioner, and it's been quite an honor to serve the citizens of Washington County. As I go around the county, there's so much to take in and learn. We have a lot of economic development projects in the works, and I'm happy to be a part of that.
That's great.
Ron, what questions do you have for our commissioner?
I think you are a member of the Fire and Rescue Advisory Board.
I am.
As you look at fire and rescue, and as you get into depth with fire and rescue, forever we have had issues with fire and rescue. It comes up every 4 years, every 2 years, it never ends. What are we doing to ensure that public safety is covered in Washington County? And do you foresee a fire tax that could be made available, or how much do we give now to fire and rescue?
Yeah. Well, you know, Ron, that's a great question. I do serve as a member of the Emergency Services Advisory Council. I'm the commissioner representative. And let's just clarify one thing. The issue that we have with fire and rescue in the county, it's not with our firefighters, it's not with our EMTs or EMS workers. They do a great job. But because society's changing a little bit, we have fewer volunteers than we've had in the past. And it is the obligation of each county to provide adequate fire and rescue services in our county. And so if there is a lack of volunteer, it's the county's responsibility to fill that void. Certainly I don't want to be a citizen in the county that has a fire need and I can't have a firefighter come to my house. Currently the county pays about $14 to $15 million a year. We have about $15 million allocated in our budget for this year to fund fire and rescue and emergency services in the county. So that's a lot of money. Most people don't realize how much money we already contribute to fire and rescue services. But the need is still there for more personnel, for more workers. So we have to come up with a solution to make sure that our fire stations and rescue stations, we have 26 throughout the county, are adequately manned.
Now, what does that equate to on a tax rate? I'm not sure.
Well, do the math, I can't do it right now, but it's about $15 million out of a $220 million budget. So you can kind of figure out.
It's a sizable amount already that goes
is.
into fire and rescue. Okay.
Well, of course, there's a lot involved with being a county commissioner, but I am personally interested in what goes beyond that, and what committees do you serve on, and what is your involvement in those committees?
Sure. So as a county commissioner, most people know that we have our Tuesday meetings, and they may assume that that's pretty much it. But there's a lot that goes into being prepared for those Tuesday meetings. We get our agenda the week before, the weekend before, and we have to review it. If we have questions, we have numerous county employees, departments that we can reach out to for assistance. A couple of the boards that I serve on, I mentioned the ESAC, Emergency Services. I'm also a liaison to the Historical Advisory Committee as well. And that doesn't prevent me from sitting in or joining in on any other county department meetings if I want to, and I oftentimes do that. I've met recently with many different departments to learn more about what they do so that I can make better decisions as a commissioner.
What's it like being involved with the Historical Advisory Committee? I mean, what's the flavor of things going on right now, particularly with downtown Hagerstown with the historical side of things? Well,
when that committee was assigned to me, I was excited because I'm a person that enjoys history. I know I'm a younger fella, but I served on the Hancock Historical Society board, so I understand a little bit about history and the importance of understanding where you came from. Certainly right now, something that the Historical Advisory Committee is pushing right now and promoting is the wonderful tax credits we have, not just here in Washington County, but throughout the state of Maryland for historic preservation and restoring historic homes. So hopefully that people that purchase the building, certainly it's their property, they own it, but to make sure that they're aware of the tax credits and advantages that are available to them when they purchase a
And
property.
the incentives involved with,
That's right.
with doing that kind of rehabilitation.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. Colin, do you have
Sure.
any questions for Mr.
I
Keefer?
do. So through the entire BRAC process, the county has inherited either a huge detriment or a huge benefit in the way of Fort Ritchie. So there's all this talk of these nebulous Korean investors that may be coming into Penmar. So what exactly is the county's stance on that? How are we going to manage that relationship? What is the potential benefit that could be coming through in terms of revenue, in terms of economic development, everything else that brings along with it?
Yeah, sure, absolutely, and that's a great question. The redevelopment of Fort Ritchie is probably going to be our county's largest economic development project in the last several decades, certainly in my recent memory. Penmar, as many people know, was a board that was formed about 20 years ago, give or take, and by the Maryland General Assembly, and they were charged with the mission of trying to develop the base. And the economy hasn't been too well in recent years, and they've had troubles finding a developer for that base. The county had an opportunity with a Korean firm called JGBLI, and they've taken on that responsibility of helping us to develop that base. So what does that mean for the county? Well, that is 600 acres right now that does not sit on our county's tax rolls. It's tax-free property. We're generating no income on that whatsoever. So just by the mere fact of being able to sell that property and get it on the tax rolls will be a big boon to our local economy. If we can develop that property and build buildings on it and increase the tax value of that property, even more so. And current figures that have been tossed around about how much money will be used to develop that base ranges anywhere between $500 million at the low end to $2 billion at the high end. And for every $100 million of accessible tax base that we have, that equates to $1 million a year in tax revenue into perpetuity. And I've said before, that's roads, that's schools, that's bridges,
Right.
You name it. That's desperately needed in our community.
Tom, do you have any further questions in this line of area that we're in right now?
Well, I'm just thinking it's a little bit of a out of the way locations, so to speak. Is there anything that's going to have to be done to get better access to the property or anything like that, or do they consider that sufficient?
Yeah,
Kind
certainly.
of in a little corner up there.
Yeah,
It's on the road.
it's out of the way.
Yeah, it's out of the
It's
way.
off the beaten path, so to speak. I think that's been one of the challenges that
Yeah.
Penmar and other groups have had in trying to find a developer because it is so
Yes.
far away. However, the South Korean firms that we've spoken to love the location. They love that it's off the beaten path. They love many of the features, the water features, the rock features, the mountain features. That appeals to
Yeah,
them.
yeah.
I think it flows through their feng shui concept of design. So they appreciate very much the location, and which many companies have found to be a detriment. They find it to be an asset.
Oh,
to
well,
them.
that's interesting perspective.
You know, it's ironic that you make that comment. And I say that because at one time there were 5,000 people that worked at Fort Ritchie. There was no problem finding Fort Ritchie. The existing roads handled the traffic to get to Fort Ritchie. International people came to Fort Ritchie all the time to do business with the military. And as I think the topography in Japan, you went to
South Korea.
To South Korea. I said Japan. You went to South Korea. Tell us a little bit about South Korea, how you see South Korea fitting into this project.
Yes. A couple months ago, I went along with the Washington County delegation to South Korea to meet some of these business partners that we hope to do business with. And South Korea is, in every sense of the way, it's almost like America. If you get rid of the foreign wording on the building, the language, you'd think you were in New York City if you were in downtown Seoul, South Korea. The technology that they have is very comparable to ours. The cars, I'm a car person, I love to look at cars, and the cars that they have are cars that are similar to ours, Jaguars, BMWs, Mercedes. So the type of economy that South Korea has, I think they're the 6th or 7th largest in the world, somewhere in that range. It's an industrialized nation, and I think it would fit very well, blend very well into our local economy as well.
Now, can you explain with the company you're talking about, that are they there now? Is there a representation of the South Koreans on site at Fort Ritchie today?
Yes, there is. The company we're working with, I mentioned JGBLI, currently has a presence on the Fort Ritchie base, and they thought that that was strategic for them in order for them to help attract South Korean investors to say, hey, look, we're already here, you can come too. Excuse me. They even were so kind as to move their corporate headquarters to our location here in Washington County. So it's a Germantown-based firm, and now they are in Fort Ritchie to further promote the base. Let me also say one more thing about Fort Ritchie, if I could. Washington County is not developing the base. South Korean businesses are developing the base. So we're not using county taxpayer dollars in any way to fund the building of the base.
And that's a great, influx of new and inspiring business in our county, for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I want to switch gears real quickly before we have to go to break. We wanted to talk, is it pronounced MACO? The MACO?
MACO, yes.
MACO.
Mhm.
Can
Maryland
you-
Association of Counties.
Okay. Can you just quickly describe what that is and your involvement with it?
Sure. Well, I suppose by default as a commissioner, I'm a member of MACO. Maryland Association of Counties is a networking organization that consists of members from all of the counties across Maryland, the 23 counties plus Baltimore City is its own jurisdiction. Last year, we actually had one of our own county commissioners, John Barr, serve as president of MACO, and they take a rotational turn for a one-year period. A different county official across the state of Maryland will represent the organization. They lobby on behalf of interests that are important to counties, and so a very important organization.
Great. Okay, well, we have a lot more coming. Coming up next, we have lots more questions for Mr. Commissioner Wayne Keefer. Stay with us.